You clicked because you're standing on the tee, swinging around 75 miles an hour, watching younger men fly the ball 40 yards past you. And you're wondering if a new driver could ever fix that. Here's what I found after 3 months of digging. Most senior golfers are losing distance, not because of their swing, but because they're playing a driver built for a body they no longer have. The club is fighting them, and the fix costs almost nothing to understand. I stumbled onto this by accident. I was standing behind a launch monitor at a public range last spring, watching a 71-year-old man named Walt hit the exact same ball speed as a kid half his age. But the kid was carrying it 40 yards farther. Same speed, different distance. That made no sense to me, and I couldn't let it go. So I chased it. Through United States Golf Association test documents, through a rule written in 2004 that almost nobody talks about, all the way to a set of launch numbers that a Danish engineering company published that flips everything the golf shops told you on its head. Stay with me, because the answer isn't the driver you think. And this works whether you started golf last year or 40 years ago. Let me take you back to that range, because Walt is where this whole thing started. He was frustrated. New driver $600, bought it because a television commercial promised him 20 more yards. He'd had it 3 weeks and gained nothing. And when I looked at his numbers on the screen, I understood why, but I didn't believe it yet. His ball was leaving the face at 108 miles an hour. That's a good number for his swing speed, but the ball was climbing off the club at only 9 degrees and spinning like a drill bit. It shot out low, ballooned up, and dropped out of the sky like a wounded duck. The kid next to him, same ball speed, almost exactly. But his ball launched high, floated and carried. That was the first clue, and it told me something I spent the next 3 months proving. The distance wasn't hiding in the swing. It was hiding in how the ball left the face. Walt didn't have a swing problem. He had a launch problem. And a launch problem is an equipment problem you can actually fix. But here's what stopped me cold. If two golfers hit the ball at the same speed, why would one driver launch it high and the other launch it low? Aren't all modern drivers basically the same? That question sent me down the first rabbit hole. And what I found at the bottom of it changed how I look at every driver ad on television. I always assumed a more expensive driver hit the ball harder, faster off the face, more pop. That's what the marketing sells you, year after year, model after model. So I went looking for proof. And instead I found a hard ceiling that the golf companies almost never mention out loud. There's a number. It's called the coefficient of restitution, and golfers just call it the spring effect. It measures how much energy the face gives back to the ball, like a trampoline. The higher that number, the more the face flexes and rebounds, the faster the ball flies. And back in the late 1990s, engineers figured out how to make driver faces so thin they acted like a spring. Ball speeds jumped. So the United States Golf Association stepped in. They set a legal limit. That spring number cannot go past 0.830. Then in 2004, they added a second test to enforce it, called the characteristic time test. They fire a small steel weight at the driver face and measure how long the face and ball stay together, in millionths of a second. The limit is 239 microseconds, with a small tolerance up to 257. Go past that, and your driver is illegal, non-conforming, banned. And here's the part that hit me. Every major driver sold in the last 15 years is built right up against that exact same ceiling. The Callaway, the TaylorMade, the Ping, the Titleist, the Cobra, they all max out the face at the same legal limit because they're all allowed the same limit, which means the face on this year's $600 driver is not meaningfully faster than the face on a good driver from 10 years ago. It legally cannot be. I actually sat back in my chair when I confirmed that. All those commercials, all those promises of more ball speed, year after year, and the spring in the face has been frozen by law since before some of these golfers retired. There's a piece of history buried in this that made me trust it even more. Back around 2000 and 2001, Callaway released a driver called the ERC2. Its face was so hot it went past the legal limit, and the United States Golf Association ruled it non-conforming for play in America. It became this legendary, almost forbidden club. Golfers who wanted more distance bought it anyway, off the books, because it broke the rule everyone else had to follow. That's how real this ceiling is. When one company jumped over it, the sport banned the club. So the face is capped. That clue clicked into place, and it was satisfying, and it was infuriating at the same time. Because if the face speed is basically the same across every driver, then Walt's 40 lost yards had to be coming from somewhere else entirely. And the moment I figured out where, I realized the golf industry has been selling seniors the exact opposite of what they need. But to show you that, I have to explain the second number on that launch monitor, the one nobody at the pro shop ever explained to Walt. Ball speed only tells you how fast the ball leaves. It doesn't tell you where it goes. Two things decide that: the angle the ball climbs at, called launch angle, and how fast it's spinning, called spin rate. And this is where the whole mystery cracked open for me. I found the data from TrackMan, a Danish company that makes the radar launch monitors used by nearly every touring professional and club fitter on Earth. They've measured millions of golf shots, and they publish what they call optimal launch conditions for every swing speed. So I looked up 75 miles an hour, the number in this very title, the speed of a typical senior swing. What they found floored me. For a golfer swinging around 75 miles an hour, the ball should launch at roughly 14 to 15 degrees, and it should spin somewhere near 2,800 to 3,200 revolutions. That combination, high launch, moderate spin, is what turns a slow swing into maximum carry. Get it right, and a 75-mile-an-hour swing can carry the ball close to 180 yards through the air. Get it wrong, and that same swing dribbles out to 140. Now think back to Walt. 9 degrees of launch. Way too low. Spinning far too much. He was doing the exact opposite of what the physics wanted. And here's the cruel part. He got there by following advice. Somebody sold him a driver with less loft, because there's this old belief in golf that low loft equals long drives. That's true for a tour player swinging 120 miles an hour. It is dead wrong for a senior swinging 75. Here's why, and it's simple once someone finally says it plainly. A fast swing creates its own launch and its own spin just through sheer speed. A slow swing doesn't. A slower swing needs the club to do that work for it. It needs loft. Loft is what gets the ball up into the air where it can carry. When you hand a slow swinger a low-loft tour driver, you starve the ball of height. It never gets airborne long enough to travel. It comes down almost as soon as it goes up. So the single biggest distance killer for senior golfers isn't age, it's loft. Not enough of it. I found men playing 8 and 9 and 10 degree drivers who should be playing 12, 13, even 14 degrees. And every degree they were missing was carry they left on the ground. Let me put a number on what that's worth, because this audience respects real numbers. Fitters who've tested this over and over report that moving a slow swing golfer from a too low loft to a properly high loft can add 20 to 30 yards of carry. Not from swinging harder, not from a new $600 face, just from letting the ball climb to the height physics wanted all along. That's when the villain started to come into focus for me, because this information isn't hidden in some vault, it's published, it's measurable. So why has an entire generation of senior golfers been handed the wrong loft? The answer is that low loft looks powerful. It photographs well in an ad. A driver stamped 9 degrees and tour and low spin sells the fantasy of the long-hitting champion. And nobody makes money telling a 70-year-old man that the humble, high-lofted club he'd be a little embarrassed to pull out of the bag is the one that'll actually fly farther. Ego sells, physics doesn't, and the golf industry has known which one moves product. So now I had two pieces. The face is capped by law, and seniors are being sold too little loft, but I still hadn't explained the whole 40 yards. There was a third thing on that launch monitor, hiding in plain sight, and it turned out to be the one most seniors could fix today, this week, without buying anything at all. I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking this is fine for a man with money to burn on a fitting and a brand new club. You've had your driver for years, it's paid for, And the last thing you want is another salesman telling you to spend $600 to gain what he can't guarantee. I felt exactly that skepticism when I started, and I promised myself this part would be for the golfer who is not starting fresh. So this next piece is for you specifically, the club already in your garage. Because here is the third number, and it's the one that quietly steals the most distance of all. The shaft, specifically the weight of the shaft and the length of the shaft. And you can address both of those without buying a single new driver head. Most senior golfers are swinging a shaft that is far too heavy and too stiff for them. Here's how that happened. For decades, the standard driver shaft weighed around 65 to 70 grams and came in a stiff flex. That's built for a strong, fast swing. When your swing speed drops into the 70s, a heavy, stiff shaft doesn't load and unload. It doesn't whip through. It just sits there, dead, dragging your swing speed down and delivering the face low and open. You lose speed you already have, and you lose launch on top of it. The fix that fitters use is almost embarrassingly simple. Put a lighter, softer shaft in. Drop from 65 grams down to 45 or 50 grams. Move from stiff to regular, or from regular to senior flex, which the industry politely labels a flex or light. A lighter shaft lets you swing the same effort and generate more club head speed, because you're no longer fighting the weight. And a softer tip kicks the face up at impact, adding launch, which is exactly what we just learned a slow swing is starving for. How much speed? Fitters routinely see golfers pick up 3 to 5 miles an hour of clubhead speed just from a lighter shaft, with no change to their swing at all. And every mile an hour of clubhead speed is worth roughly 2 to 3 yards. So a lighter shaft alone, in the head you already own, can be worth 10 yards or more. A good club repair shop will reshaft your existing driver for a fraction of the price of a new one. You keep your driver, you just wake it up. And here's the part that costs nothing: length. Somewhere along the way, the industry started building drivers longer and longer, chasing speed, until stock drivers reached 45, 46 inches. A longer shaft can create more speed in theory, but only if you hit the center of the face. Miss the center, and a long shaft scatters the ball and kills your ball speed. Most seniors would hit the ball farther, not shorter, by choking down an inch on the grip. That one adjustment tightens your contact, moves your strike toward the center of the face, and center contact is worth more distance than raw speed. You can do that on your very next swing. It costs nothing. Nobody sells it, because nobody profits from telling you to hold the club you already have an inch lower. I tried this myself, at that same range, with a borrowed heavy driver and then a light one. And maybe that's exactly where you're sitting right now, holding a driver you paid good money for, told it would give you 20 more yards, and it's still dropping out of the sky like Walt's wounded duck. Everything I just walked you through is one thread from a much bigger picture, and I pulled the whole thing together into the complete senior distance system, a 3-volume playbook that lays out the real fitting science behind your lost yards, the honest equipment rankings, the loft and shaft truth most fitters won't say out loud, and a step-by-step bag decision framework so you can walk into any fitting with complete clarity instead of getting sold. It shows you exactly why you lost 15 to 30 yards after 55 and how the right equipment gives them back. And you don't even need to buy it to test the core idea tonight. Go grab your own driver, read the loft stamped on the sole, and check it against that 14 to 15 degree launch window we just talked about. You'll likely find you're playing far less loft than your swing is begging for. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description, or the pinned comment. Your distances didn't fall because you got old. They fell because your equipment never changed, and that's a cost you're paying on every single tee shot until you fix it. Now let me show you what happened when I put the theory to the test myself. The light shaft felt like cheating. Same effort, faster swing, higher flight. And that's when the shape of the whole thing became clear to me. This was never about your body failing. It was about equipment quietly working against you, and an industry with no reason to point it out. So I had 3 pieces now: the capped face, the missing loft, the wrong shaft. And I finally understood the 5 drivers that genuinely help a senior, not by magic, but by fixing all 3 of these at once. Let me show you what those 5 actually have in common, because it's not the brand name on the sole. When I lined up the drivers that fitters actually recommend for 75-mile-an-hour swings, I expected them to be scattered all over the map. They weren't. They shared a fingerprint. 5 traits, every single time. The first trait is high loft, and lots of it available. The drivers that help seniors offer 12 degrees, and some go higher into what's marketed as high launch models. Ping built an entire line they literally stamped HL for high launch, deliberately lightweight and lofted for exactly this golfer. That's the company founded by Karsten Solheim back in 1959, an engineer who built his first putter in his garage and never stopped chasing forgiveness over ego. When a company with that history builds a club and tells you plainly it's meant to launch high and easy, that's not a downgrade. That's the most honest club on the wall. The second trait is a light shaft as standard, down in the 40 to 50 gram range, in a flex that matches a slower swing. The right drivers for this golfer come light out of the box, so you're not paying to fix them later. The third trait is high forgiveness, and there's a real number behind that word. The United States Golf Association caps how forgiving a driver head is allowed to be, using a measurement of resistance to twisting called moment of inertia. The legal limit is 5,900 with a small tolerance. The best senior drivers are built right up against that legal maximum. What that means in plain English is that when you miss the center of the face, and every one of us misses the center, the head barely twists, so the ball still flies straight and keeps most of its speed. The forgiveness is capped by law too, and the smart drivers max it out. The fourth trait is a draw bias, or at least an adjustable weight you can move toward a draw. Because as swing speed drops, most golfers start leaking the ball to the right, a weak slice that bleeds off yards. A draw-biased head fights that slice and squares the face, which straightens the flight and recovers distance. Cobra, TaylorMade, Callaway, and Cleveland all build max forgiveness, draw-leaning models aimed squarely at this golfer. The names change every year. The design goal doesn't. And the fifth trait is the one nobody brags about. A lightweight overall head and build, so the total club is easy to swing fast. Cleveland built a whole line they called Launcher XL Light, and Tour Edge has spent years building their Hot Launch series for exactly this player. Light, lofted, forgiving, not sexy, just effective. So there they are, not 5 magic brand names, but 5 traits. High loft, light shaft, maximum legal forgiveness, a draw bias, and light overall weight. Any driver that checks those 5 boxes will help a 75-mile-an-hour swing. Any driver that misses them, a low-loft, heavy-shaft, low-spin tour model, will rob that same golfer, no matter what the ad promised. Match the 5 traits, and the brand almost doesn't matter. That felt like the answer. It's a good answer. But it wasn't the thing that stopped me in my tracks. Because in the middle of all that TrackMan data, I found one number, one buried finding, that contradicts almost everything the golf shops teach seniors about spin, and once I understood it, I couldn't unsee it. That's the real secret, and it's next. Here's the discovery that turned everything upside down for me, and I want to walk you into it the way I found it, because it's that good. For years, the golf world has been chasing one holy grail word, low spin. Every driver ad screams it. Low spin, low spin, low spin. And it's true. For a tour professional, a fast, powerful player creates so much spin naturally that they have to reduce it, or the ball climbs too high and stalls. So the entire premium driver market is engineered to kill spin. Low spin heads, low spin shafts, low spin balls. And seniors, hearing that low spin is the secret to distance, buy right into it. But when I dug into the TrackMan optimizer numbers for slower swing speeds, I found the opposite is true, and it's not a small difference. It's the whole ball game. For a golfer swinging 75 miles an hour, killing spin is a disaster, because a slow swing doesn't generate enough spin to keep the ball in the air in the first place. Spin, up to a point, is what creates lift. It's what holds the ball up so it can carry. Take spin away from a slow swinger and the ball falls out of the sky early, exactly like Walt's wounded duck, except his problem was that his low-loft face gave him too much of the wrong spin, low and diving, instead of the clean climbing spin that carries. The buried truth is this: a senior golfer needs enough spin from enough loft to get the ball climbing to that 14 or 15 degree window and hold it there. The optimal carry for a 75-mile-an-hour swing sits up near 3,000 revolutions and 14 degrees of launch, high and floating, not low and boring. The senior who chases the tour player's low-spin, low-launch dream is deliberately grounding his own ball. He's been sold the champion's medicine for a completely different illness. And here is the piece that qualifies as the real secret, the thing almost nobody says out loud. The single most effective distance change a slow swing golfer can make is to add loft until the ball flies higher than his pride is comfortable with. That's the whole trick. When it looks a touch too high, when it floats a beat longer than feels manly, that's the ball finally doing what physics wanted from the beginning. Fitters have a quiet saying for this. They say the senior golfer should keep adding loft until he's slightly embarrassed by the flight, and that's usually the exact moment the carry number peaks. I tested it against every source I could find because it sounded too simple. It held every time. TrackMan's own optimal numbers back it. The physics of lift back it. The fitters who do this all day back it. High launch, healthy spin, light club. That is the recovered secret. It was never hidden in a vault. It was hidden in plain sight, drowned out by a marketing message built for a golfer you are not, and were never supposed to imitate. So picture the whole fix now, the way it finally came together for me. Take a driver with those 5 traits. Set it to a high loft, 12 degrees or more, higher than you think you need. Put a light, softer shaft in it, 45 or 50 grams. Choke down an inch so you catch it out of the center. And let the ball fly high enough to make you slightly nervous. Do that, and a 75-mile-an-hour swing can pick up the 20, 30, even 40 yards that Walt watched that kid steal from him. Not from a younger body, from the launch numbers that were his to claim the whole time. I went back to that range a few weeks later, and I told Walt what I'd found. He swapped into a 12.5-degree driver with a light senior shaft, and choked down an inch. First swing, he stood there watching the ball climb and hang, and he laughed out loud, because it looked wrong to him. It looked too high, and it carried 26 yards past his old ball. 26 yards, from a man who'd been told his distance was gone forever. That's the thing they took from him, and from a lot of you, not the yards. The knowledge that the yards were still there for the taking. If you've spent years believing your distance disappeared with your youth, I hope this is the video that gives it back to you, because the truth is, it was never your swing that failed. It was a club built to flatter a body you don't have, sold with a champion slogan that was never meant for your speed. You are the kind of person who refuses to be told to spend $600 to fix a problem a lighter shaft and a little more loft could solve. You'd rather understand the thing than be sold the thing. That's the whole reason I chase these threads down and bring them back to you. Now I want to hear from you. What loft is stamped on the driver you're playing right now? Go check it, come back, and type that number in the comments. Just the loft, like 10.5 or 9 degrees. I'm genuinely curious how many of you are playing less loft than your swing is begging for, because I have a feeling the comments are going to prove this whole video in real time. Leave that number. Don't just think it, type it, because someone else reading it needs to know they're not alone. And if you want to keep recovering the knowledge that convenience culture and clever marketing buried, come along with me. There's a whole movement of us digging this stuff back up and refusing to keep paying for what we can do ourselves. Because the next thread I'm pulling is about golf balls, specifically the 2-piece ball that costs less than half of the premium ball, and the buried test data suggesting it flies farther for a slow swing, not shorter. I found the numbers. Wait until you see who didn't want you to. So, that's the overview. If you want to go further, come inside the Practical Wisdom Circle, where this very video keeps going. In there, you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself, not a machine. You belong with us here. You're not doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time with one click. No risk. Now that your driver's sorted, let's help you find those lost yards on the fairway too. I've picked 5 irons that give you real distance back, even with a gentle swing. That video's starting right here.